Welcome to Wildcard Wednesday on the Michele Tafoya podcast. I'm going to admit something to you. I am experiencing a broad range of emotions this morning. I'm pissed off at the state that I live in, Minnesota. I'll tell you why. I'm pissed off at a lot of people who are protesting right now. I'll tell you why. I'm pissed off about so many things, and I'm sorry if that language offends you. I'm angry, but I'm going to try to cheer myself up with some humor because we all need that. If we don't have that, we're going to go nuts. And so this Wildcard Wednesday is full of everything. Hopefully some stuff you haven't seen anywhere else. That's kind of what I want to achieve. And some of the things that maybe you just haven't had the time to listen to. We're going to provide them for you in this wonderful nutshell of a sort of look at the news today and all week. All right. Before I go any further, please hit subscribe. We'd love to have you with us for every single episode. We are growing and we want you in the family. So just wherever you listen, Apple, Rumble, Spotify, YouTube, just hit that subscribe button. It costs you nothing and you get what we think is really great content. We have Dr. Drew Pinsky coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have the Secretary of the VA, Doug Collins, coming up in the next few weeks. We have an amazing guest coming up tomorrow. I mean, there's so much that we think is valuable. We've had so much in our library that we think is valuable. I really hope you'll subscribe. All right, without further ado, here's why I'm pissed off. And you should be too. This isn't just happening in the state of Minnesota. This is happening all over the country. We wonder why Congress has such a low approval rating. We wonder why states are doing really stupid things. You've seen Gad Saad on this show before, professor from Canada, who is a Lebanese Jew who had to escape a war-torn Lebanon in order to survive. He's a fascinating, smart, wise guy. You're going to hear from him in this broadcast, and what you're going to hear in this episode is really funny, what he does. And it has to do with his, what he calls suicidal empathy, that we are being so empathetic to people that we're killing ourselves. We're bending over backwards for people, and we don't need to be. See, every individual is capable of living on his or her own and using his or her own agency. And the real vulnerable people in society, yeah, we can lend a hand. But people making themselves victims because of things that are immutable or things that they've decided they are, that they really aren't, we'll get into it. But here's why I'm angry. We had this open seat come up in the Minnesota House. And there's a long reason behind it. The Democrat that originally won the seat was not really living in that district. So we had to have an emergency election. And I want to give you a video that's gone viral of this guy that won last night, just last night. This guy is going to be helping to craft legislation in the state of Minnesota. He's not alone. I'm sure this happens in Texas, in California, I know it happens in Connecticut and New York. Here's the guy that Minnesotans decided should represent their district in the Minnesota state legislature. Here he is. This has nothing to do with his campaign. This has to do with how angry he got because he wasn't tipped well the other night. Roll it, John.
Them celebrate a birthday, catering to every whim that they have, helping two of them get engaged. Yes, that happened tonight. And then when I see that, and then they don't want to do the customary 20% gratuity, that makes me feel trod upon. That makes me feel like it's ironically enough, it is me suffering from one of the vestiges of slavery in America, which I suppose is, I guess, appropriate, being that I am a white guy. But the fact of the matter is, when somebody stiffs me or leaves 10% after I have done my damnedest to make sure that they had a great time, I feel used, and honestly, it makes me feel like shit.
Okay, he didn't get the tip he wanted. And now he has to tell the world about it, and he's suffering from one of the vestiges of slavery. I'm not sure how not getting tipped the typical 20%. By the way, we're not going to tip you 20% if you didn't do a good job. You might think you did a good job, but based on your demeanor and your attitude in that video, maybe you rubbed some people the wrong way. Just maybe. Anyway, that guy got elected last night to represent Minnesotans. So I'm so disappointed in voters and in people that won't throw their hat in the ring or just, I guess we get the politics we deserve, right? That guy is now representing. You better tip him. You don't want him to spit in your food. Better tip him. Speaking of money, tariffs are getting a lot of attention. And we're only focusing on the tariffs that President Trump wants to levy against other countries. Have you done any research into the tariffs that are levied upon us? Well, this guy did. He's on X. His name is Kaizen, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I don't want to do that because I don't know it for sure. So you can find him on X. You'll see him here. He does a pretty damn good job of explaining why you might want to calm down a little bit about tariffs. Roll it, John.
Would you believe these insane tariffs that the U.S. is bullying Canada with? 250% for milk, 291% for butter, 208% for whey, 241% for cheese? How could we do this to our neighbor? Oh, wait, those are actually tariffs that Canada imposed on the U.S. last year. Whereas for the same goods, we imposed the following tariffs: 10% for cheese, 10% for butter, 5% for milk, 0% for whey. It's interesting that since Trump announced tariffs, everyone became an econ PhD who's confident that they know exactly what tariffs will do to the economy. But while you've seen Trump fighting for tariffs, you haven't seen that before no one was fighting for us at all on the global scale. Now, how are tariffs going to affect the whole economy over the next year? I don't know. And no one else does either. But I do know that tariffs got Apple to build a new factory and hire 20,000 more Americans. I do know that the word is that Honda is building 210,000 of their next Honda Civics here in America instead of Mexico and giving Americans jobs. I do know that Taiwan Semiconductor announced that they're going to invest $100 billion to build up 5 new chip factories in the U.S., creating yet more jobs. I do know that tariffs are being used to pressure China, Mexico, and to a lesser extent, Canada, to stop the flow of fentanyl over our border and killing 70,000 Americans a year. Now, here's the thing with tariffs. They're one tactic in an economic strategy, and there are all sorts of ways that that tactic can get used. Sometimes they get deployed for short term. Sometimes long-term. Sometimes they're actually used. And sometimes the threat of them gets used. Sometimes they're used to threaten Russia to end the war. Sometimes they're used to generate revenue from other countries so we don't need to tax our citizens so much. Sometimes they're used so that we support farmers here rather than farmers abroad. Sometimes they're used to make companies make weapons that we rely on here rather than China, which is our rival. Sometimes they drive prices up, but wages up too. Is this all making your head spin? Yeah, me too. Because there's a lot to consider. Macroeconomics are complicated, and it takes time to play out. Rather than focusing on every move on the chessboard, we need to all zoom out and ask ourselves, do I think my president wants America to win? Am I listening to people who want my president to fail so that they're proven right, even if that means America goes wrong? Am I willing to tolerate short-term disruption for long-term gain? Look, no one should have blind faith in any leader, but blind negativity just hurts everyone, you included. And remember, if you can't make a strong argument for the opposition against your side, then you're not seeking the truth. You're choosing your tribe.
Absolutely love that. This is the kind of guy that makes me feel a little better about America and about our future. This guy, you can find him on X at That's Kaizen, Kaizen, Kaizen. His bio says, make nuance cool again, life coach, Harvard class of 12, Emmy winner. Really, really interesting. Nuance. You can't show any leader blind faith, but blind negativity hurts everyone. He's a good follow. And were you surprised at all about those tariff numbers? Did you know that? Did you know that any of that? Sorry, I love him and I love that. And that cheers me up a little bit. This cheers me up too. Stay with me. We're not all doom and gloom here. This is not that long ago. This is 2010. Okay, so it's 15 years ago. But math doesn't change over 15 years. Concepts, philosophical, broad concepts about waste, fraud, and abuse don't change over 15 years. But somehow, here we are. Trump is in office. Elon Musk is risking a lot to try to help clean up our budget and our spending. And people are just ticked off. Democrats are ticked off. But were they in 2010? Let's listen to Chuck Schumer a while back. He gave this argument about waste, fraud, and abuse. Let's go ahead and roll it.
If we're going to eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, it does mean we're going to cut some of that out. And when I hear my friend Dave Camp say, you cannot cut money out of Medicare, well, we don't want to cut the good stuff that you point out. 1/3 of Medicare doesn't go to patient care. You can't just get up there and say, we don't want to cut anything out of Medicare. We want to cut the bad stuff and keep the good stuff.
Okay. That seems reasonable. That was during that whole healthcare argument back in 2010, before Obamacare. Same day, same hearing. Let's listen to one, I think she was the speaker then, Nancy Pelosi, who said this.
We cannot keep our promises on Medicare. We simply must make the cuts in waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare so that the benefits and the premiums are untouched. We owe it to our seniors. We owe it to our country.
Waste, fraud, and abuse. Seemed reasonable then. Somehow it's not now. And I kind of like this approach, I got to be honest with you, where Elon Musk took a chainsaw to the money, to USAID, to the Department of Education. Now has been, the payroll has been cut in half overnight. We'll get to that. It's going to be okay, everyone. It's gonna be okay. Yes, federal workers are going to lose their jobs. People in every industry lose their jobs every day. Just because you are a federal worker doesn't make you entitled to that job. We don't give that tenure. We shouldn't give teachers tenure. So somehow it was all bad, waste, fraud, and abuse then. But now, don't touch this stuff. So I just wanted to show you that for a little bit of contrast as to the way these people spoke when their president was in office and the way they're speaking now. There are still expenditures that can be cut, folks. The government is so freaking bloated, it's unbelievable. And it's weighing us down, and it's a national security threat too. All right. We're going to get to the pro-Palestinian protesters and this guy, Mahmoud Khalil, who's been taken into custody by ICE for deportation. There are a lot of people very upset about this. I am not one of them. And I'll tell you why. And I am a free speech absolutist. But this is no longer about free speech. But before I get there, let me just remind you about your health, because we did just talk about healthcare and waste, fraud, and abuse. If you're looking for a way to improve your health, you can just start with Kimchi One from Brightcore Nutrition. Kimchi One. Okay, I've been taking this stuff for a few weeks. Kimchi One packs all the fermented nutrition out of kimchi into convenient capsules, arming your gut with over 900 unique strains of probiotics supporting gut flora and digestion. I know you get these messages a lot, but I highly recommend this product because all health starts in the gut. So putting the right fermented superfood in your gut improves every aspect of your health, your skin, your hair, your mental performance. Kimchi has even been shown to reduce your risk of obesity and promote smaller waistlines. And that is not fat shaming, folks. That's about health. Obesity is not healthy. A Kimchi One is all natural, made in the USA and non-GMO. And today you can get an exclusive offer just for my viewers. 25% off with the code Michele, Michele, there's one L, by going to mybrightcore.com/Michele with one L. Or call my friends at Brightcore for up to 50% off your order and free shipping. Here's the number to call them, 888-927-5980. Their educated staff will make sure Kimchi One is right for you. 888-927-5980. Or again, mybrightcore.com. And that's bright, CORE, mybrightcore.com/Michele. Use the code Michele for 25% off. Okay, freedom of speech is one thing. Even if I disagree with you and you want to say that you are pro-Hamas, that is one thing. Disrupting campus, spitting on Jewish students, breaking windows on a campus that is subsidized and hopefully no longer by the United States taxpayer, all of those, that's not free speech. People have civil rights. People have the right to go to class, no matter if they're Jewish or Palestinian. They have the right to go to class. When that gets hindered, now we're talking about something that is not free speech. I want to roll this video for you. This person named Mahmoud Khalil is now the poster child for the progressives in Congress and for Columbia University because he's been taken into ICE custody because he's not a U.S. citizen. He's got a green card and a student visa. Okay, so he's got some protections. But what if he has other plans? What if there's more known about this guy than we realize? Why is he here? He hates America. Roll this tape. That's plenty. That gives you an idea of what's going on in the streets of New York City, around Columbia University, that this Mahmoud Khalil is now this martyr, is the way they're presenting him. But when you've got people that are saying, not just saying, but threatening students physically, keeping students from going to class. We have crossed a line where free speech stops and people's civil liberties have to be protected. I think Marco Rubio said it really well. And by the way, someone said recently, what a wonderful surprise Marco Rubio is. He's a great member of this cabinet. Not a surprise, folks. I have seen the potential in this guy. I caucused for him in Minnesota when he was running for president. I have long admired Marco Rubio. And here's one of the reasons why he's a great communicator. And here's what he said about this Mahmoud Khalil sort of incident or situation. Go ahead and roll it.
When you come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country, as on a visitor's visa, okay, you are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student, and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities. I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it. And if you end up having a green card, not citizenship, but a green card as a result of that visa while you're here in those activities, we're going to kick you out.
We have to be realistic about why this guy came to America to study at Columbia from Syria, what his intentions were and are, because let's remember, other people have come here to kill us. 9/11, let's try not to forget that. They came onto American soil to try to take down. They accomplished it. This country survived, and this country will survive Mahmoud Khalil. But what seems to be happening is this growing anti-Semitic, anti-American sentiment on campuses all over the country. Columbia University, I'm told, is 50% of its general studies students are foreigners. That's fine. Love to have you. And please stay if you think you can contribute to a prosperous, peaceful society here in America. But if you're coming here because you hate us and because you hope to sow more animosity toward the West and toward America and rile people up to block the streets, to break into college buildings. Let's remember that happened to Hamilton Hall on Columbia University, named after Alexander Hamilton. I wonder how he'd feel about all this. If that's your point in coming here, and you're trying to sow a lot of this division, divisiveness, anger, unrest, you can do it through speech. But this guy has crossed a line. A lot of these people have crossed a line. And why is $400 million of American taxpayer dollars going to subsidize Columbia? They've pulled it. Supposedly, the United States government has pulled it. And they should threaten that to every university. I don't know why the university needs our money. It's got a massive endowment. The college structure is so ridiculous these days. All right, so you've heard there from Marco Rubio. I also want to play this for you from Gadsad. And remember, if you've seen him on the show, if you've seen him on other shows, you know who he is. This guy was a Lebanese Jew whose family had to escape Lebanon in the war. He wound up in Canada. He's now a professor. He is very pro-peace, very pro-West. And he made this sort of spoof video about why would you ever want to deport me? Let's roll it, John.
Please, Ya Allah, please, Habibi, let me into your country. I love you. I just want a better chance. I'm your brother. Come in, my brother. Wallahi, I hate your people. I hate your women. I hate your liberties. I hate your religion. I hate your society. I hate your alcohol. I hate your religion. I hate your heritage. Wallahi, we will kill the Zionist pigs. Wallahi, America is the shaitan. Wallahi, we will conquer you. Why you deport me? Why? Ya Allah, why?
Suicidal empathy. Hey, let me in. I'm oppressed. I'm marginalized. I'm seeking amnesty. Now that you get here, F you, F the police, F the government, F people, F Zionists, F Jews. Wait, you want to send me home again? That's the basic message there. And he put it in great terms. Immigration is a problem. Illegal immigration is also a problem. Not all immigration is a problem. And this Mahmoud Khalil is a legal immigrant, but now that he's here and we see his true intentions, it is our right, because he is not a citizen of the United States, to deport him if he is a danger. And that's the idea. I wonder what Jasmine Crockett thinks. She's the new it girl for the progressives out of Texas. I'm going to get to her in a second. Thank goodness I have sleep cream, because I don't always sleep great these days when I'm experiencing all of these different emotions and the things that keep me awake at night. But Janet F says, sleep cream is a great product. My husband is very encouraged with it, as am I. He's gotten more sleep in the last couple of days than in months before we used it, and I'm finding it helps calm down the neuropathy pain that I get at night. Wow. How does sleep cream do that? Look, if you struggle with sleep, and so many people do, I want to tell you what Janet found, what I found. It's sleep cream. It is a topical cream that you apply at bedtime, and it allows your body to relax and go to sleep. And how does it do that? They use an all natural CBD combined with the finest essential oils. That's the other thing I like about it. It smells so good. And it's kind of like having aromatherapy at night. So I just put it on before I turn in. Sometimes the insides of my forearms and elbows, sometimes the bottoms of my feet. You can find them at sleepcream.com. And so many of my friends and family have turned to this product. And here's the great thing. It's no risk. Because if it doesn't work for you, you can get your money back and you don't have to return anything. Just let them know it didn't work for me. Sleep Cream is a great company that way. Go to sleepcream.com, sleepcreme.com. So it's that creme, if you will. Sleepcream.com. For the next few weeks, use the code GameDay at checkout to get free standard shipping on your first order. That code is GameDay, all one word at checkout at sleepcream.com. Code word GameDay for free standard shipping on your first order. If you're ready for your best night's sleep ever, and who isn't? Sleepcreme.com. Use that code GameDay. Remember, you're not risking anything because you can get your money back if it doesn't work for you. I love this stuff. I love this stuff. Okay, I was mentioning Jasmine Crockett, the new it girl, the new, speaking her mind and decorum can go to hell and all the rest. Here's what Jasmine Crockett said over the weekend about entering the country illegally. Roll it, John.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally. It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why they're so frustrated, because they really want our local law enforcement to go out and round up people when they could be looking out for the murderers and the sexual abusers as well as the robbers. They want them to go and round people up on civil accusations.
It is not illegal to enter the country illegally. That's not true. It's not true. I think she's a lawyer. You might not want to take her legal advice because what she just said is factually untrue. Then she talked about trans people. Again, another hill that Democrats want to die on. Go ahead and roll, Jasmine. Again, it's not the trans people's fault.
There's so much more that brings us together than separates us, right? And so get out of the cultural stuff, right? Because guess what? It's not the trans people that made you lose your job right now if you're without a job. It's not the trans people that somehow started a tariff war with Mexico or China or Canada. It's not the trans people that were out there taking away the Department of Education. So now if you were going to pay for your kiddo to go to school by using loans, those loans may not be available. It's not the trans people that they went out blaming for everything that was bad. It's also not the immigrants that they went out blaming everything on. And it's definitely not the black folk. Black people, especially black women, are still putting our bodies on the front lines in the fight for an America that will continue to kick us no matter what we do.
Continue to kick you no matter what you do. Who's kicking you, Jasmine? Who kicked you into Congress? Who kicked you through law school? You seem to have accomplished quite a bit in a country that just keeps kicking you. That's such BS. Such BS. Such race-baiting BS. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not the trans people that took you out of a job, unless your job was to compete as a cyclist and you can no longer get a sponsorship because a trans woman, also known as a biological male, got the spot on the podium that you deserved. Again, interesting hill to die on. And Bernie Sanders, who is still a rock star in the Democrat Party, I think within the Democrats, also likes to put trans people on a pedestal. Let's put it that way. Look, it is not transphobic to say men should not compete in women's sports. That's my only real issue. Stay out of women. You are creating a reality that isn't real. You think it is. Okay, let's roll this piece of tape. If you haven't seen this, you need to see this. We're going to bleep some of it because it's not nice. But this is a trans musician that Bernie Sanders had at one of his rallies, and this is an interesting choice.
God have a big fat dick, 'cause it feels like he's f***ing me. Are his balls filled with lightning? Do they tingle like heaven's keys? Does your God have a big fat dick, 'cause it feels like he's f***ing me?
I'm not really sure what Bernie was going for there. I don't know. Maybe I'm just getting old, but our culture is just in decline. It really is. Okay, speaking of the trans issue, Dylan Mulvaney has not left the building. Dylan Mulvaney was spending some time writing a book. Dylan Mulvaney is a biological male who decided a few years ago, I'm going to become a girl. And what Dylan Mulvaney really wants is not to be a female. It's simply to dress up and act like his vision of a girl, which is, see, women are not all like what Dylan Mulvaney pictures they are. Dylan Mulvaney likes to be pretty. That's fine. But that doesn't make you a girl, Dylan. Here's a little clip from Dylan at his book signing, he just released a book. Go ahead and roll this, John.
Don't laugh at me, but maybe we could be...
Is this a good time?
And then we could
Oh my God, this is the best day of my life. Happy International Women's Day.
Nice guys to have fun with.
Wow. That sounds like Jill was my prop master in the Book of Mormon, and I just started crying because I was so happy to see her. I love you.
Okay, that's what Dylan Mulvaney thinks being a girl is like. So Dylan Mulvaney is born male, then was gay, then became trans, which is the real hot trend right now, and it's stuck. So Dylan Mulvaney's making a lot of money from this. Dylan Mulvaney went on The View on International Women's Day, I believe, or released his book on International Women's Day. How does it make you feel as a woman that a man is getting more attention on International Women's Day than any biological woman who has to go through a menstrual cycle, who, if she chooses, go through a lot of pain to give birth? That's a male cosplaying as a female. That is a man who is trans. I don't have a problem, Dylan, with you living your life. I guess I have a problem with people saying that should elevate that person above other women who are actually women. Why do we do that? Why does Drew Barrymore have to kneel in front of Dylan Mulvaney? Why does The View have to, and by the way, they used that appearance by Dylan Mulvaney on The View to talk about why is it such a problem that men are in women's sports, Whoopi Goldberg said. Women aren't weak. They can deal with it. Did Whoopi miss Serena Williams on Letterman saying she would not play against a male because that male pro player would kick her ass? That it's a totally different game? Did Whoopi miss that? Serena, you might want to restate that for people because now it's a problem. Back then on Letterman, when you said it, this was not even an issue. But now are you afraid to repeat that? Because now it's politically incorrect. It's culturally incorrect. I don't know, man. But I agree with Van Jones, who's a Democrat strategist who is on MSNBC. I think Van Jones and probably a lot of Democrats see a problem. Let's roll this from Van Jones.
Look, man, we're screwed. I mean, we don't know. No, Democrats don't know what to do. This is a nightmare. Somebody like Donald Trump, we thought we'd at least have, Hakeem Jeffries in the speaker's chair to hold him back if we didn't have Kamala in there to do the right thing. Listen, the Democratic Party is going through a massive set of internal crises. You have a party that got trapped two ways. One, defending a broken status quo that nobody likes because they thought that Donald Trump was going to make it worse. But when you're defending the status quo, you're going to lose. And then offending most people in the country, calling everybody sexist and racist and transphobic and every other name, and then saying, please follow us. That's not a good strategy, folks. Defending a broken status quo and offending most of the country turns out is not as popular as my party thought it was going to be.
So did you hear me said they have two problems, and one of them is defending an unpopular status quo. At the same time came out of his mouth, we thought we'd at least have Kamala Harris to do the right thing. Kamala Harris was the status quo that people weren't happy with. So you say defending the status quo, which is really unpopular, not a good idea, but I'm still going to say Kamala Harris would have been a good idea. That one's interesting. But he is right. Democrats are screwed right now. They are all over the board. The people that they are elevating to represent them are Mahmoud Khalil and Dylan Mulvaney. And Rosie O'Donnell, who moved to Ireland to be safe. By the way, the Prime Minister of Ireland is visiting the United States President today, the one that she thinks is so dangerous. We have a great relationship with Ireland. He really took a risk there. I'll give her credit. She moved out of the country, but oh my gosh. Proving how out of touch she is that, hey, look at me, I did it. Aren't I great? You have the means, Rosie. You have the means. Not cheap to live in Ireland. Okay. Defending the status quo, we thought we'd have Kamala in there to do the right thing, he said, Van Jones said. Can you imagine if Kamala Harris were in office right now? Would we be anywhere in these peace talks between Ukraine and Russia? No. We'd just be sending more arms and more money. That's all we'd be doing. Would we be cutting costs at all? No. Price of eggs went down. Inflation ticked down. It's still not where we want it to be, but it went in the right direction. Even CNN said so today. All right. I leave you with this. No, I don't want to leave you yet because Van Jones still thought Kamala was a good option. Let's visit Kamala. She's made another appearance recently on a stage in a speaking engagement. This is what could have been, and he wanted to be our president. Roll it, John.
So I was willing to give up whatever might be the tracking of Kamala Harris's particular fondness for nacho cheese Doritos for the sake of getting a big bag of Doritos as I watched the Oscars.
That's the consumer behavior.
And that's right, but here's the thing. At what point do we also uplift and highlight the consumer's right to also expect, and you can debate with me if it should be a right, I think it should, to expect that the innovation would also be weighted in terms of solving their everyday problems, which are beyond my craving for Doritos, but about whatever, and I know the work is happening around, the scientific discoveries, for example, to cure long-standing diseases. But I'm going to throw out another one. And you all, again, please get back to me any information you have. I would love it if there would be an investment of resources in solving the affordable housing issue in America. Like, help me with that. Help me with that.
That's a market issue, and we can build more houses. And that quote, we got Doritos, we got the Oscars, we got Kamala Harris loves Doritos. We know that. We got what was, I'm trying to listen to it. A woman trying to make a statement using as many interesting words as she can and going all over the place. And someone said it before, I didn't make this up. It's like when you have to write an essay and you don't have a lot to say, so you just keep adding words from the thesaurus. That could have been our president. Can you imagine her sitting across from Putin? Can you imagine her sitting across the table with Xi Jinping of China? Holy mackerel. At least we know what they'd be eating. Instead, we have Donald Trump, who, love him or hate him, disagree with him all the time or not, at least he is doing stuff. And by the way, if you're one of those people who thinks it's really cool for people to attack Tesla dealerships and attack the Tesla charging stations, all of you who wanted electric vehicles because they're cleaner and better for the environment, but now your same side, is attacking Elon and blowing up cars and painting swastikas on these Teslas. Explain to me how you got from A to B there. I mean, and by the way, if you want to keep up with the Trump administration, and it's not easy because there's a lot going on, so why not get a daily email right into your inbox? It's called the Trump Report, and it brings you all the daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. You can subscribe right now at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump. SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump. Because there is a lot going on. It's hard to keep up. I kind of like it. And yeah, the Department of Education, a lot of people got fired overnight. It's going to be okay. Don't let anyone tell you that we need a bloated education department to make schools run. The same people that think that the trans issue, whether boys and girls should compete in the same sport, should be handled by local municipalities, don't think local municipalities can handle their own education systems. It doesn't make sense. It's hard to make sense of all of this. But what I can assure you of, as the daughter of a public school teacher, she taught for 30 years, God bless my mom, Wilma Tafoya, rest in peace. You don't need a Department of Education. Every state can handle this. And no, this doesn't mean the funding ends. It means the layers of bloat and administrative crap can end. It's going to be okay. And if it's not going to be okay, I'll come back and tell you I was wrong. So be brave. Do a little bit of good today. And let's all try to cheer up. And if you feel like you're going through hell, well, then just keep going. As Winston Churchill said. Yeah, I quoted Winston Churchill. That apparently now is racist. I'll see you next time.